Divorced men, what moment with your former wife made you decide to divorce? When the cops showed up and arrested me while I was washing dishes, I found out after being taken to the station that she claimed I had been beating her and my 5-year-old son. Was acquitted in court a month or so later. The situation was so messed up that the cops actually testified on my behalf. Aside from the narcissism and random violent outbursts, it was her strange punishments. Her last one doomed her. My crime was forgetting milk on the way home from work, so she didn't talk to me, not one word, for a week. It was pure bliss for a week. When she asked if I was ready to apologize, I handed her the divorce papers. Why? Because you robbed me of solitude but provide me with no companionship. We were already not speaking. It was Thanksgiving. I knew she wasn't going to bother, so I made a turkey and everything for my then 8-year-old daughter. I had the turkey out on the counter to rest after roasting. My beloved bride walked in, calmly threw the turkey in the kitchen trash can, and walked out. I had to take my kid to Golden Corral for Thanksgiving. That was it. I was done. Employers, what jobs are you finding to be impossible to fill? Louisville, Kentucky is a food paradise, but there is currently a shortage of restaurant workers. One restaurant group spokesman was in the newspaper as saying something like, "My line cooks make $17 and I don't have a shortage of workers." Maybe these businesses complaining should take a look at their low wages. I literally went to his restaurant because of that quote. At my hotel, housekeeping. No one wants to clean up after the nastiest animals on the planet. Plenty of hours and reliable work to be had, but no one wants to do it. They should be paid more, I guess, or people could just be less disgusting. Despite what employers will say, all jobs are feasible if you pay enough money. There was a CEO a few years ago who wrote complaining that they could not hire welders, and it turns out they were offering $20 per hour. Parents, how did you discover your child was no longer a virgin, and how did you feel? Child 1 stashed his used condoms in a McDonald's cup in his closet, still filled with Coke. I found out after dumping it out. Yeah, weird, I know. Child 2 asked permission. Children 3 to 5, still waiting. It's always hard to take your child growing up when you still picture them as a baby. My mom found out one day when she called the house looking for me. My brother, instead of knocking on my door, just barged into my room and found me and my girlfriend at the time. He said, "Hold on a second, he's having sex," and left the phone on the floor. Thanks, bro. My wife worked as a nurse, and you'd be amazed at how common this is. Young teenage daughter and mother go to the doctor to see about some gynecological issue. Tests come back positive for a sexual disease. Mother looks in shock at her daughter and learns her little baby isn't a virgin anymore. People who have been a Santa at the mall, what's the creepiest thing a kid has asked for Christmas? This was at a spot in East Brooklyn, a super poor area with a lot of drugs and violence. It was disturbing how many kids had literally nothing, so they asked for the most basic things, or just to get out of bad situations. I wish my mom would stop hitting me. I wish my brother was still alive, he got shot. I wish we had enough money for a microwave. I wish my daddy would stop doing heroin. It's sad. Years ago, I was in line with my 6-year-old nephew. When Santa asked him what he wanted for Christmas, he said, "Could you get mommy and daddy some pajamas? Because they don't wear any." The whole line broke up, including Santa. I was Santa for corporate holiday parties one year. I'm in my 30s, but used a spray for my beard. It looked great, kids liked it, and so did one lady who threw a kid off my lap, hopefully hers. She whispered that she wanted Santa to have sex with her from behind while pulling her hair. It didn't even seem like she was drunk, and it was very uncomfortable. What's something medically cool or unique about your body? I have beaded hair. Everyone's hair is coated in a layer of protein, but in my hair that protein is constricted in some places, making each stand look like it's covered in little beads. Hairdressers often comment on it and will call other hairdressers over to look at it because it's rare. I used to donate plasma and was told I have some sort of super measles immunity. They asked for my consent to turn it into medication for people whose immune systems are too compromised for a traditional measles vaccine. It made me feel like a mini superhero. I have little calcified spots all over the inside of my lungs from when I had chicken pox as a kid. They're harmless, but they show up on x-rays and most doctors don't have a clue what they are. The pulmonary specialist that diagnosed them asked if she could keep the x-ray films to show med students because it was so rare. Ship crew members, what was the creepiest experience you had out on the ocean? I worked for a bit as a deckhand on fishing boats out of San Diego. Sometimes we would come across deserted small boats drifting with big motors. Every time the captain would just cut hard port or starboard to get away from them as quickly as possible. I knew they were drug-running boats that had probably dropped off their cargo, but I would check them out with the binoculars if we were close. One had 2 people on it, both had clearly been shot a bunch of times, and one was moving and fairly alive. I told the captain, got a disapproving headshake, and we were on our way. In hindsight, I know that was wise. Came upon an empty life raft in the middle of the Atlantic. In all likelihood, it was probably an accidental drop. Maybe a crew member was screwing around with the release or something. The implications otherwise are very disturbing though. Did a ship go down without anyone making it to the raft? Was the raft abandoned for some reason? It left me feeling vaguely disturbed for a while afterwards. Single men, what made you definitely not want a second date? I was on the first and only date with a girl I barely knew through some friends. I drove to her house, she got in my car and smelled like she had just taken a massive poop but forgot to wipe. Went to dinner, I barely ate. I made an excuse to end early, dropped her off and drove home with the windows down in the middle of winter. She showed up in a dirty white dress, her hair looked like it had not been brushed in months. During dinner she told me that she still lived at home, never wanted to get a job, and that she stole her dad's car while he was asleep to meet me at the restaurant. Then when she found out that I was divorced, she said, "You didn't work hard enough to save your marriage." I put down the chopsticks, went and paid and said, "Nice meeting you," and left. I went out for coffee. She brought a bottle of vodka and kept topping up her cup. I politely asked her what the deal was, and she said she liked to party. When it was time to go, she fell over and started screaming that I had to help her up. I did, told her to wait right there, and left. What is the worst example of helicopter parenting you've ever seen? Some years ago, I got the following email out of the blue. "Hello, your parents sent me a package with your information and pictures and a letter saying they wanted to set us up. As flattered as I am in a committed relationship right now. I am also only 21 years old, and I'm not looking to get married or have children anytime soon, which your parents made clear was your intention. I'm sorry, but this isn't something I am interested in. I wish you good luck in your endeavors." Yes, they were serious. Parents going on job interviews with their kid. It happens all the time, even with medical school interviews. I had a girl come in for a job interview with her mom, neither introduced themselves properly, and the mom wouldn't shut up about how perfect her daughter was. I had my supervisor do the full interview with the girl while I talked to the mother. I told the mom straight, "You are ruining your daughter's chances at getting hired at any job." She got offended, so I clarified. If your daughter can't show up to work without her parent making her, it doesn't make her look like a reliable employee. She was still offended, and damn right we didn't hire the girl. Students, what is something your teacher did that made the whole class angry? We get crazy hot weather in outback Australia, and she wouldn't turn on the air conditioning in class even though it worked. Her reason was that when she was young she didn't have it, and she survived. All the students hated her. She forced us to make a donation to a charity. When I didn't bring anything in, I got a demerit. I had to argue that not everyone has the ability to give something away. She then lectured me for it in front of the class. Everyone thought it was ridiculous. The principal of my high school tried to expel me for having an epileptic seizure in front of him. He said I was a danger and distraction to others' pupils and was disrupting his school. I ended up being kept out of school for 2 months while my parents fought my case. In that time, almost all of the rest of the teaching staff, who were furious with this decision, kept me supplied with work and even one-to-one tutoring when needed. This was in a rural area where the next nearest school was 40 miles away, so we had no other school choice. What's your best, "I dare you to fire me" moment from work? My dad was delivering catering to an office and the receptionist messed up. She was yelling at him in front of her bosses saying that he was too late when he wasn't and that the order was wrong when it wasn't. She was making such a big issue of it and then said she was going to report him to his manager and get him fired. So, my dad gave her the number. She called and my dad picked up because he owns the business. Everyone in that room was laughing at her. My dog became sick very suddenly and he needed to be put down. I was at work and I asked to leave half an hour early so I could be there for him. I asked my manager and she got annoyed and said there was no way and that I should have told her earlier. I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize my dog was going to die," in the most sarcastic way, then walked away knowing she'd follow me. I then stood at my desk and typed my resignation up in front of her. She gave me the time off. No one was going to stop me from being there for my boy.